Hello, friends around the world. This is Will Barney from Enoch Global Services here today on another Thursday. This is February 26th with another update. This is our global update this week. It's titled The State of the Union, and we've got some very interesting things we're going to share that came from the State of the Union address from Donald Trump. But we also have a lot of other things that are going on that we're going to highlight because there is a lot of stuff going down all over the world. And it's starting to get really dramatic as we move into what I affectionately will call March Madness. As we get into that month, you're going to see why we call it that. But there's a lot of stuff that's on the table today that we want to jump into. We're going to go through our typical slides today, show you the evidences of things that are happening so that you know what steps we've taken over the last week and how we're progressing towards our goal, which is freedom and liberation from the cabal slavery systems that allow us to live an abundant and healthy life. So without further ado, we'll get right into the slides. So, all right, I want to start with the U.S. debt clock. Of course, there's other pages on this website for different countries that you can go to. There is the most information, of course, for the United States, but there's information for all countries there. And they posted a couple of very special images in there, what they call their special window, and over this last week. And here's the first one. This was actually posted just today. Show me your assets. And of course, we have this knight in full armor, and he's got USA on his chest there. And then we have the Fed over here, and it says, what assets? $0. And at the bottom, it says, we the people, 211 trillion worth of assets. So gives you some idea of what we're moving to as we come out of fiat currency. And we're going to be discussing a little more about fiat later in the program. But as we move from that, we're going to realize how blessed we are as a world and how much assets there really are to actually care and take care of us. Most of the lack in our world has been manufactured. We're going to find that out. The next image that they put up is called Fedocracy. Fedocracy, I guess I can say that properly. Money from nothing, okay? Now you can have your 400 PhD economists at the Fed and not one is smart enough to know what you're running a grand Ponzi scheme. And then, of course, we have the image of Jay Powell, who is running the Federal Reserve. Unlimited money printing creates a self-sustaining grand Ponzi scheme. We teach them not to see the forest through the trees. So can you imagine that? 400 PhDs at the Fed, and they just keep the same nonsense going on and on. This is all designed to help all of you see that fiat currency is not the panacea that they wanted to sell us on, that it is doesn't have any assets backing it. There's really no value. It can be created out of thin air, and they do this with a keystroke or a mouse click and can create any amount of money that they want. So this is going to be interesting as we go forward through the rest of this year, and particularly the next, I would say, 4 to 5 months, as you see a lot of the events that we've been discussing for years now come to fruition. Okay, moving on to other topics. A lot has been going on in the last week with metals. And this is very interesting. I'm sharing this article. This is from GoldFix. Special, JP Morgan sees 9,300 gold peak in monetary reset. So as we look at another graphic here, and this was part of the article, as you look at this graphic here, JP Morgan is predicting that we could have a major paradigm shift or a currency shift. And if we do, we're looking at anywhere from 5,900 an ounce. This is, as you can see on the left part of the chart there, all the way to as high as 9,300 an ounce. And that is if we back all of the US dollars that are in circulation with gold. So theoretically, if we took the 2.1 trillion that is in circulation in the country and we backed it by gold, now we have 9,300 an ounce. And so the price of gold needs to be that high in order for the amount of gold that we're holding, which in this case is 8,133 tons of gold, to back all of the currency. This is why there's been a lot of talk about, and even speculation, that the pricing of gold could go even as high as 20,000. The only reason for that is to create enough backing. If the price is higher, the same amount of gold goes farther and you get more money out of it. So that's ultimately what you're seeing. And JP Morgan knows this. So they're predicting, hey, if we're going to go to a gold-backed currency, we're looking at least 9,300 an ounce. I think it potentially could be higher than that, but that is a good place to start. And that does coincide with the numbers that you were seeing on the U.S. debt clock as their estimation of where gold could possibly be by the end of 2026. So very interesting things going on there. I want to take a look at this chart. And for those that don't understand what this is preliminary data coming from the Comex. This is about the number of contracts. And in this case, we're looking at silver. And what you're looking here is in March of 2026, we had a reduction, and this is just within the last week, of 6,320 contracts removed within the last week. Now, I said last week that we were facing a potential, but we could be looking at a potential black swan event as all of these contracts could potentially start standing for delivery. But actually what we've been seeing in the last 5 to 7 days is these contracts are being unwound, okay? Now, what's interesting, and I don't have this highlighted in red, but if you'll go down 2 more months to May, you can see that as we canceled or cashed out 6,320 contracts this last week, which will not be standing for delivery, we added 8,659 contracts to May. So what you're seeing here is they're kicking the can down the road is what this is called. They're saying, oh, there could be a reckoning with not enough inventory to pay out if everybody stands for delivery. So they're saying, let's just kick the can down the road. And I'll show a little more data about that as well as we move on. Silver Trade posted this and said silver closes over $100 in China as the Shanghai exchange is hemorrhaging silver. So another 3.68 metric tons of silver has been withdrawn from the vaults in the Shanghai exchange. This is fascinating because we're seeing millions of ounces being withdrawn consistently from the Comex exchange here in America. In fact, over the last 4 months, we have seen a drawdown of a third of the amount of inventory that was there is now gone just in the last 4 months. And in fact, the drawdown schedule in January of this year was like 700% higher than it had been the previous year in January. Okay. So it tells you that there's a movement going on here, and that is that people are trying to get their hands on physical silver. We're entering now 6 years where the inventory levels and production levels of silver, if you look at all the mining activity, how much silver is generated every year, we have been consuming more than we produce for 6 years in a row. So what happens is that is being drawn off of all of the reserve status, and that's what we're seeing in each of these situations. As inventories dwindle, there is this emerging price discovery coming from the bottom that is saying, hey, this can't be ignored any longer. But as we saw, there were even gyrations this week to try to hold this price down. So let's move on. Let's show some of this. The CME posted this, and this was yesterday. Due to a technical issue, the CME, Globex metals, and natural gas futures and options markets were halted at 12:15 p.m. today. Natural gas futures and option markets reopened at 12:50. Metals markets will reopen at 1:45. Okay, what happened? What was happening at the time that this shutdown occurred was we had the price of silver crest $90, and they were in a panic mode, those sitting on short positions. So the whole thing was shut down, blaming it on, what does it say? Technical issues. Okay, those are the words, 2 words, technical issues. of what happened. They restarted it later. Do you know what happened? When they restarted later, suddenly a lot of contracts that were potentially going to stand for delivery, they just weren't there at all. They had evaporated. Something had happened in that 1.5 hours of shutdown, and everything got stabilized. And suddenly it looked like, oh, we might have enough inventory to handle March. Looks pretty fishy to me. The last time we saw a shutdown of the Comex was nearly 4 months ago, three plus months ago. And right after that, we had the same thing happen. We had a drastic price drop coming right out, right after they turned it back on. We saw the same thing here this week as $90. Look at this chart. As $90 started dropping, the cartel unleashes on gold and silver after CME trading halts. Silver slammed $3 down to $88.20. So there was clearly somebody that were holding shorts under the $90 position. And gold was smashed $70 down to $51.64. The bullion bank's operation appears to have been launched in an attempt to prevent silver from breaking above the 92 an ounce. Okay, let's move on. 2.2 million ounces have been drained from the Comex silver vaults just this Tuesday alone. We're talking 2 days ago. Registered silver also plunges to 89, I got to look at this, 890,000 ounces. Okay. This is interesting as we watch the numbers drop. As I said, we're looking at 1/3 less silver than there was just 4 months ago in the vaults. And these are futures trading, folks. This is paper contracts rolling and everybody doing price discovery and betting on price scales. The Comex usually hasn't been in the market to deliver silver very often. It will for the industrial uses. That's why industrial buyers would buy there. But typically it's been a paper trading. Now we're starting to find this big separation that's now occurring where the price of physical silver is a very different number than what you see on the Comex numbers. So if you look at the total Comex silver, they're showing 2.165 million to 361 million ounces. Okay. Total Comex registered silver is down 890,000 ounces to 282 million ounces. What does this mean? Registered silver is the amount that's available to pay out on orders that are standing for delivery. So 86 million ounces. A week ago, there was 239 million ounces that had the potential to stand for delivery. Suddenly, a lot of that unwinds, and we get down to what we're seeing today in order to prevent mayhem coming here the 1st of March. Tomorrow will be the first day that people can announce their intentions to stand for delivery for the March futures, and watch what happens tomorrow as we go into March. Chris Martenson had this to say: India caught Jane Street manipulating its markets and kicked them out. China caught account abusers doing its paper silver markets and immediately closed those accounts. Congratulations, America. You have the most obviously corrupt markets on the face of the planet, worse than India's and worse than China's. This isn't price discovery for silver, but blatant price setting, which is illegal, or at least supposed to be. Apparently, we've lost the ability to hold anybody who has money accountable for anything. This is end of an empire clown show stuff here. Prediction: the losers in charge will only figure out how important trusted and functioning capital markets are once they lose them. But of course, they will have their fat Panama Papers offshore accounts to console themselves with. And if you look at the chart at the bottom there, you got CME outage occurs, and look what happens to the price. It drops down, and then it gets fixed later. Now, what's interesting, and I'm going to show you a chart on this here in just a moment. Here we go. This is as of probably just 30, 40 minutes ago, and it has already recovered to 89, so it's already pushing at the door for $90 again. Now that chart that you can see is 5 days, okay? So over the last 5 days, we went from 87, we had a jump on the 25th that shot to 90, pushing towards 92, 91 plus, and then the market shut down. And what happened? Look, it dived all the way back down to 87 when they shut it down. And then when they reopened it, now it's already gained. They reopened it yesterday afternoon. Today, now it's already come back and gained close to $90 again. What this suggests is that there's this pressure of physical inventory problem that isn't going away. It's not, you can't just pretend it's not there, and you can't use paper tigers or paper manipulations to try to just say it's not going to happen, because the reality is catching up and it's moving things in an upward direction. So we expect price increases going forward, particularly when Shanghai is offering as much as $12 to $14 more per ounce than the Comex is offering. And I challenge anybody to be getting physical silver at those rates, because that's very difficult to find. Let's take a look at this. Reuters put out this article. India market regulators have changed gold silver valuation for mutual funds. What does this mean? This means they're dumping the LBMA for their gold and silver pricing, because London has been manipulative in the pricing market, and they realize the physical metals aren't matching the numbers. Again, let's look what's happening here. Steph Mace 22 was kind enough to put the information all in one graphic so that you can see it. Okay, I'm going to read a couple of parts of this because it's important. Beginning April 1st, 2026, India is shifting the valuation of physical silver and gold held by mutual funds and ETFs away from the London Bullion Market Association, the LBMA, AM fixing prices, to polled spot prices from recognized domestic stock exchanges. So India is saying, we're not going to trust London anymore. We're going to create our own price. Okay. Decoupling from LBMA, Indian ETFs will no longer use the international LBMA AM fix. Starting April 1st, the Reserve Bank of India will officially allow banks and NBFCs to accept silver, jewelry, and coins as collateral for loans, marking a major step in monetizing household silver. Isn't that interesting? You can now collateralize loans with your bank in India using gold and silver. This is amazing. Increased transparency. SEBI requires that the polling mechanisms used to determine the domestic spot prices be made public to enhance the investor trust. This regulation aims to create more consistent and transparent valuation methods for investors in Indian gold and silver ETFs. A 10-to-1 ratio context. This is very important. While the market ratio is higher than this, initiative is described as a 10-to-1 silver to gold or 10 kilogram silver to 1 kilogram gold framework to facilitate rural and household liquidity. This move is considered a significant shift towards a silver standard 2.0 in India, potentially impacting global market sentiment, increasing its role as a recognized monetary asset. I find this fascinating because just 2 weeks ago, we were discussing the Minerals Ministerial, where they had 54 nations, India was included, to talk about price floors to stabilize minerals. And what was the top mineral on the list? It was silver. Okay. Now, we've been talking for, the entire couple of years here now, discussing these issues about something was really wrong when we had 85-to-1 at one point ratio gold to silver, when historically, over time, go back 6,000 years, the typical numbers should have been maybe on the low side 7-to-1, high side 20-to-1, but nothing near 85-to-1, right? So that means silver's massively depressed over gold. India's talking about getting back into the range of a 1-to-1. What would that mean? As of today, it would mean $500 an ounce silver, just to give you an idea. So this is fascinating. All these countries moving in this direction. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Josh Fair put this out. Josh is the CEO of Scottsdale Mint, and he put this video out. I'm not going to play the video. You can probably find it online. But what he talks about is because of their position, moving metals all around, he's dealing with each of the different carriers. So the carriers are Loomis and Brinks and Malcolmette and all of these different transporters of metals. And he's been talking with them. And do you know what he finds out? That since Christmas or even before, every flight, particularly coming out of London, but coming out of Europe back to the US, has been bringing back gold anywhere from 2 to 4 tons per plane. Commercial flights bringing gold back. And he says, is this repatriation? What are we watching here? Because the movers of metal are saying this is happening. And so he has a firsthand knowledge about it. Very fascinating. Something to watch for as we get ready for an asset-backed currency. Another evidence of what's going on. Okay. United States Trade Representative posted this. Today, USTR is taking another step to negotiate on agreements on trade in critical minerals among like-minded countries. The USTR is seeking public comments on border mechanisms, including price floors and tariffs, and build market-based and resilient critical mineral supply chains. This is fascinating. This is a follow-up to what we had with the Minerals Ministerial Conference. They're still in discussion with each of these countries. They're trying to come to a recognized floor that they could put on the metals that would revitalize the mining industry, get supply back going, and be able to stabilize the markets for minerals in all of the countries working together. So that's coming. Metallicus expands FedNow service capabilities with request for payment. This just came out today for immediate release. San Francisco, February 26. Metallicus, a leading provider of digital banking and blockchain infrastructure for credit unions and regulated financial institutions, today announced it has achieved a request for payment certification for the FedNow service, further expanding its real-time payment capabilities for credit unions. Metallicus was previously certified for send, receive, and liquidity management through the FedNow service. With the addition of the request for payment, Metallicus now enables credit unions to initiate real-time biller-presented payment requests directly through the FedNow instant payment rails, unlocking improved cash flow, faster settlement, and enhanced member experiences. So FedNow is supposed to be instant settlement. It's not instant, but it's pretty fast. I've used it before and moved very quickly. So Metallicus is the system that all the credit unions are going to be compliant, not only with FedNow, but with blockchain, so that they can have fast and speedy delivery of payments. Big stuff. Watch more for Metallicus as we coming into the future here, as you're going to see credit unions using the capabilities of Metallicus to stay current with blockchain trends. Bar Chart posted this, and it says, Crypto Explained. I'm going to play the video because it's pretty self-explanatory, and we always have to have a little bit of humor in everything we're doing here, and this is one of those moments, so take a look. So he keeps investing to make it grow. And in the end, all he gets was the stems, and it's all taken away. For those that have been watching pricing fall among various cryptocurrencies, this is how many feel, right? This is kind of a sentiment that's going around, everyone feeling like, oh my gosh, the bottom's falling out from this. What you're watching is a consequence of the exposure of what fiat is. As fiat is being exposed, you're seeing all things of fiat origin, which the cryptos are, and there's only certain specific ones backed by something. Those are one-to-one you're talking about the stable coins, which are one-to-one with US dollars. But most of the tokens are not backed by gold, silver, assets, these types of things. I'm saying most because there's a few that have gotten into that world. And so what that means is that crypto is fiat, just like everything else is fiat. And we're getting a real world example of price discovery going on here, where everybody's trying to find out that, fiat isn't the thing we thought it was. It's not the future because we want something real. And you're going to see this whole theme escalate over the next 90 days. Okay. Let's move on to other topics. Donald Trump posted this based on a thorough, detailed, and complete review of the ridiculous, poorly written, and extraordinarily anti-American decision on tariffs issued yesterday. After many months of contemplation, the United States Supreme Court, please let this statement serve to represent that I, as the President of the United States of America, will be effective immediately, raising the 10% worldwide tariff on countries, many of which have been ripping the U.S. off for decades without retribution until I came along, to the fully allowed and legally tested 15% level. During the next short number of months, the Trump administration will determine issue new and legally permissible tariffs, which will continue our extraordinary successful process of making America great again, greater than ever before. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Of course, you can see this was February 21st. Now, on the 19th, we did a podcast and we went over a lot of the things that were going on. And we talked about the fact that the Supreme Court still hadn't ruled, and Trump been talking about this. Where's our ruling on tariffs? And it comes out Friday morning, the 20th. By midday on Friday, Trump had realigned tariffs under different statutes that actually were proven. And this Supreme Court case actually verified that. So he redid the tariffs. They didn't go away, and he put 10% on. Then the following day, this is Saturday, then he raises it to 15 as the general tariffs. This is all countries, not just some, dealing with the United States. So as we went into the weekend, this last weekend, this was the situation. And so the Supreme Court, if there were those in the Supreme Court trying to push back against the president on what his powers were regarding tariffs, well, it didn't work. It didn't work at all because he now has verification of other statutes that he can stand behind that are proven and have been tested, and he doesn't need congressional approval to do this to keep the country going in the hot direction. This is all about stabilization of our countries. And you're going to see more of this activity going on with other countries too. There's not just the United States. I realize the United States is being a big focal point here, but you're going to see other countries continue to use tariffs appropriately to try to stabilize their own markets as well. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon talks about the adoption of blockchain, better, faster, cheaper for clients. In the interest of time, I'm not going to play this, but he comes out and admits that blockchain is better, faster, and cheaper, okay? And that they are adopting whatever technology they need to in order to be relevant for their clients. So when you have the CEO of the biggest bank in America talking about these things, that gives you an idea of what's coming. That means blockchain's here, it's not going away.
Really exciting. And
I'm going to move on, so we don't have time to do all of that video, although it's actually a really good one if you want to watch it. Eric Daugherty posted this. Breaking, massive win. U.S. court rules in favor of President Trump and Scott Bessent's IRS sharing data with the DHS, that's the Department of Homeland Security, and ICE to speed deportations. Let's go, another victory. What this means is that the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, who is also the head of the IRS, said publicly on numerous occasions on television that they were using the data collection system of the IRS to help find the fraudsters and those that were abusing the system, particularly as it relates to those here illegally. And so now what we have is we have a court backing that up, saying, yes, The government has a right to do this, and that's only going to make it faster to find the illegals and move them out. Nick Sorter presented this. Breaking: the U.S. men's hockey team is now wheels up toward D.C. for President Trump's State of the Union tonight. Trump sent them one of the presidential Air Force One planes to fly them here in style. What an honor. That is pretty amazing that he sent that plane to pick them up. Of course, they were there at the State of the Union, and he featured them that night. So that was really awesome. U.S. Department of Energy posted this. The state of American oil and natural gas. This was posted just earlier in the week. Thanks to President Trump's policies, America leads the world in oil and natural gas production, producing at all-time records. And if you look at that, the USA, look at the difference there. The top chart is oil, and the bottom chart is natural gas. And it's not even close. Okay? So you can see how energy is really ramping up with this president. The whole idea is to try to bring the cost of energy down and have it reasonable. And you do that by quantity, having enough in the market that it keeps prices in check. That keeps inflation down, and it drives support for the reindustrialization of the nation, which we're seeing with all the new factories being built. Moving on to the State of the Union, which is the title of tonight's episode. And I wanted to cover some very specific points of State of the Union. We don't have time to sit here for 2 hours and watch the whole thing. It was actually 107 minutes long. I found that an interesting number. If you take out the zero, because the zero doesn't have a value, it was 17. How's that for just interesting, right? So Tulsi Gabbard posted this. The quiet moments are often the most important. Last night, just before cabinet members walked into the House floor for the President's State of the Union, we joined together in prayer, giving all thanks and praise to God and praying for the clarity and strength to listen to Him, to serve Him, and to do His will. What a sight that is, that we have a praying cabinet in the government. This is amazing as we go forward. And I expect you're going to see this become a stronger theme as we move closer to our 250th birthday. Now, as we get into the State of the Union address, I'm going to highlight some sections and some pieces of it for you because I think these were the important components that we felt were important to share with you tonight. So Eric Daugherty posted this. Holy crap, congressional Democrats just confirmed in front of millions of people that they want to protect illegals over citizens. Trump, stand if you agree that the first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Now watch what happens. Let's play the video.
So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
As you can see, the left side of the room is where the Democrats are sitting. And Trump is perplexed that they wouldn't agree with that statement, showing the whole world where they stand. Isn't that amazing? I'm letting this play because he makes a side comment here. Apparently, they dislike our country that much. It's amazing. It's fascinating what we saw with the State of the Union address. I don't think any time in history have we seen such a stark contrast between winning and what it looks like and those that literally would hate the country enough to literally not stand for some very important things. And some of those played out tonight, whether it be recognizing veterans that received medals of honor and other accolades, Purple Hearts, all this stuff. And many, they did not stand for much of this. It was actually quite shocking. Let's go to another part of the State of the Union. President Trump has Ilhan Omar going berserk after calling out Somalis and illegal aliens. She begins yelling at the top of her lungs. You should be ashamed of yourself, he says. She goes on to keep yelling. Watch this.
Sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
The House Speaker would go on to say today in video that he came this close to actually exiting her from the chamber for inappropriate remarks in the State of the Union and having her kicked out. But he thought it actually might be better for the American people to see her behavior, particularly for those from Minnesota, to see what their representatives are actually doing, how they represent them, and very fascinating. Okay, let's move to the next item. For the people I love, President Trump defends his tariff plans, asserting tariff revenue created by the foreign countries that can substantially replace the modern day system of income tax. Again, we've been talking about the income tax going away. Watch how he reconfirms that again here in the State of the Union address.
Many of the wars I settled was because of the threat of tariffs. I wouldn't have been able to settle them without. Will remain in place under fully approved and tested alternative legal statutes. And they have been tested for a long time. They're a little more complex, but they're actually probably better, leading to a solution that will be even stronger than before.
That is Amy Coney Barrett from the Supreme Court,
Congressional action
who voted
will not be
against the
necessary.
tariffs.
It's already time-tested and approved. And as time goes by, I believe the tariffs paid for by foreign countries will, like in the past, substantially replace the modern-day system of income tax, taking a great financial burden off the people that I love.
Look at that. Again, the Republicans stand and the Democrats stay seated for the removal of income tax for the people. It's not this just incredible. This happened all night, played out all like this, win after win after win, and yet they sat there. And you have to ask yourself, are these people really representing us, or has voter fraud been used to keep them in their positions to literally try to subvert the country? So very fascinating. I don't think at any time in history did we see such a stark contrast in front of everybody's face to see one side versus the other and their reaction to these things. Moving to the next item in the State of the Union. President Trump demands a ban on congressional insider stock trading. And I thought this one was very interesting because we know this has come up and become an issue. So take a listen to what he said.
Stock market. Let's also ensure that members of Congress cannot corruptly profit from using insider information. They stood up for that. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Did Nancy Pelosi stand up if she's here? Doubt it. Pass the Stop Insider Trading Act without delay. I wasn't sure if anybody even on this side was going to applaud for that. I'm very impressed. Thank you. I'm very impressed.
So again, another very fascinating issue. There was actually quite a few Democrats that did stand. You saw Elizabeth Warren standing there. You did see Blumenthal sitting. Of course, he wasn't going to stand, and he's already been caught in all kinds of weird stuff. So expect to see a little more of this. Nancy Pelosi did not stand. There was actually another video shot. I don't have it, but she did not stand for that. And the fact that Trump mentioned her specifically probably gives you a clue that we're going to see some more information coming out about the revelation about perhaps some of the things she's done or not done. So keep an eye on Nancy Pelosi. Next item. But surely we can all agree no state has been allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to new gender against the parents' will. We couldn't agree more. Listen to what he says here. And again, watch who stays seated.
In the gallery tonight are Sage Blair and her mother, Michelle. In 2021, Sage was 14 when school officials in Virginia sought to socially transition her to a new gender, treating her as a boy and hiding it from her parents. Hard to believe, isn't it? Before long, a confused Sage ran away from home after she was found in a horrific situation in Maryland. A left-wing judge refused to return Sage to her parents because they did not immediately state that their daughter was their son. Sage was thrown into an all-boys state home and suffered terribly for a long time. But today, all of that is behind them because Sage is a proud and wonderful young woman with a full-ride scholarship to Liberty University. Sage and Michelle, please stand up. And thank you for your great bravery. And who can believe that we're even speaking about things like this? 15 years ago, if somebody was up here and said that, they'd say, what's wrong with him? But now we have to say it because it's going on all over numerous states without even telling the parents. But surely we can all agree no state can be allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to a new gender against the parents' will. Who would believe that we're even talking about this? We must ban it, and we must ban it immediately.
Liberty is a new university that's being promoted by the government to bring back truth and transparency with history and a lot of other topics. And it's being made more readily available to anyone that wants higher education. And so you're going to hear more about that university, but it is amazing what's being done in this regard. We all should be appalled that any government official or school official would think that they have more authority over a child than a parent is appalling. Absolutely amazing. This should never happen, not in our society. And yet we're seeing them take authority unto themselves, assume it, but they don't have it. Very fascinating as we see this play out. Again, this is all part of disclosure of the idiocy of what was being foisted upon the people. Amazing what's happening here, and you're going to see this corrected more and more.
Since I took office.
Let me back up to the beginning of this because I don't want to play the video just yet. But the next item on the list here is about 401ks and what that looks like. And he talks about a lot of people don't have 401ks or capabilities, but this is coming. They're going to be changing this for everybody. Take a listen to what he says.
Since I took office, the typical 401k balance is up by at least $30,000. That's a lot of money. We have millions and millions of people, because the stock market has done so well, setting all those records. Your 401ks are way up. Yet half of all of working Americans still do not have access to a retirement plan with matching contributions from an employer. To remedy this gross disparity, I'm announcing that next year my administration will give these often forgotten American workers, great people, the people that built our country, access to the same type of retirement plan offered to every federal worker. We will match your contribution with up to $1,000 each year.
Isn't that amazing? So there's going to be a plan provided for everybody can get into a 401k, and the government's going to help match. Listen to that. The same type of retirement plan offered to every federal worker, they're going to give it to everybody with a potential matching contribution up to $1,000 a year. Hello, this is awesome, folks. You all wanted to know, when are the great things going to happen? Well, it's already underway and is continuing to happen for America and consequently the rest of the world. Nassar is not just for here. We have Jassara that applies to every country around the world. We're all going to a new and better place. It's going to be fantastic. One more item here. Another pillar of the American dream that has been under attack is home ownership. And I want you to listen to what the president says about home ownership and what he wants to do about the problem in America, okay?
Another pillar of the American dream that has been under attack is home ownership. With us tonight is Rachel Wiggins, a mom of two from Houston. She placed bids on 20 homes and lost all of those bids to gigantic investment firms that bypassed inspection, paid all cash, and turned those houses into rentals, stealing away her American dream. She was devastated. Stories like this are why last month I signed executive order to ban large Wall Street investment firms from buying up in the thousands single-family homes. And now I'm asking Congress to make that ban permanent, because homes for people, really, that's what we want. We want homes for people, not for corporations. Corporations are doing just fine. Racel, thank you very much. Good luck with your home. You'll get one soon.
So what we're seeing here is the president's taking action against this. For the last 3 years, even in our local area here, we saw prices of homes escalate over 30% in 1 year. One particular year went up by 30%. And I kept trying to figure out what was going on. I had a friend that's a mortgage broker, and I talked with him. I says, do you have any idea what's happening? He said, yes, a lot of Wall Street money is coming in by the billions, and they're buying up all these homes. And it's driving up the prices for the families, and they're all struggling to get their bid accepted. This is a travesty. It should have never been allowed. Of course, now we have an executive order saying corporations can no longer do this. And now he's asking Congress to make this law, pass a bill making it illegal for corporations to buy up all the homes and be some big, massive landlord. So glad we're seeing a change to all this. It needed to happen. Moving on. This was posted by the White House on their website. It says, last month, I signed an executive order to ban large Wall Street investment firms from buying up in the thousands single-family homes. I'm now asking Congress to make that ban permanent, because homes are for people, not corporations. President Donald J. Trump. Stephen Miller had this to say about the night as all these events unfolded. He says, the immoral visual of the entire Democrat Party, upon explicit repeated invitation, refusing to stand for the core moral principles that the U.S. government owes its allegiance to the U.S. citizens and not foreign criminal invaders, is the most shocking image in the history of the U.S. Congress. I actually agree. I thought it was shocking. We've never in my lifetime have seen such a thing when very leaders in Congress act in a manner that is contemptuous towards the very people they're supposed to support. It is appalling on every level. We have lost a dignity and respect in our nation, and it comes from this. Next, we have this from Carolyn Levitt. Carolyn Levitt is the White House press secretary, and she made a list and posted it. Okay, here's what the Democrats in Congress refused to stand for during the State of the Union. First, putting American citizens over illegal aliens, voter ID laws, the murder rate at the lowest level since 1900, keeping violent criminals locked up, protecting parental rights, stopping fraud, angel families, price transparency, taking on drug cartels, no tax on tips and overtime or Social Security, the most secure border in history. The contrast could not be clearer. The Democrats are crazy. President Trump and the Republicans are for common sense. This has been the topic over the last 24 hours, 48 hours particularly, as everybody is highlighting the appalling scene that we saw Tuesday night. And even mainstream media, it finds it shocking. And that's really something to see. Secretary Brooke Rollins posted this yesterday, and just a little section of the State of the Union, but it related to what she does, and this has to do with food stamps. Take a listen.
We cut a record number of job-killing regulations, and in 1 year we have lifted 2.4 million Americans, a record, off of food stamps.
So numbers are going down of those needing food stamps, and that's a good thing. That means people are doing better. They're finding jobs. They're beginning to prosper. That's what we want to see. I want to see it in more countries too. Department of War posted this. 3 boats ran, and now all 3 have been captured. Overnight, U.S. forces conducted a right-of-visit maritime interdiction and boarding of the Bertha without incident in the Indo-Pacom area of responsibility. The vessel was operating in defiance of President Trump's established quarantine of sanctioned vessels in the Caribbean and attempted to evade. From the Caribbean to the Indian Ocean, we tracked it and stopped it. No other nation has the global reach, the endurance, or will to enforce sanctions at this distance. International waters are not a refuge for sanctioned actors. By land, air, or sea, our forces will find you and deliver justice. The Department of War will deny illicit actors and their proxies freedom of maneuvering in the maritime domain. We've seen this happen over and over as they have actually confiscated multiple vessels who were violating various orders. Michael Jaco posted this, and I want to spend just a little time in this because it's very important, having to do with income tax. He says, if you're still paying the IRS taxes, you will get a refund. All of your taxes ever paid. Remember that gold that was taken from under the VAT belonged to us? That's what will fund the refund for all individuals and businesses since 1913. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger because I want you to see this document. Again, it says April 4th, 1985, to all district directors. So this is from the top of the IRS down to all the district directors within the IRS system. On March 5th, 1985, a charge of tax evasion was filed in U.S. District Court in Indianapolis by U.S. Attorney Geo Duncan. The charges were dismissed. The defense attorney, Lowell Barracrat of Huntsville, Alabama, presented irrefutable evidence that the 16th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was never properly ratified. This amendment, which established the income tax, was signed into law despite serious defects. In reality, only 2 states ratified the amendment, and ratification requires 38 states to be valid. The effect of this is such that every tax paid into the Treasury since 1913 is due and refundable to every citizen and business. Did you read that? Did you hear that? The effect of this is such that every tax paid into the Treasury since 1913 is due and refundable to every citizen and business. The difficult position of the service is, and has always been, to aid and assist the citizens of the United States. We will not publish or advertise this finding, as a total for immediate refund would cause a serious drain on the resources of the Treasury. For those citizens who become aware of this finding and apply for a total refund, expedite their refund documents as quickly and as quietly as possible. A simple 1040X form will suffice until a new form is designed and printed. Advise each of your managers that they are not to discuss this situation with anyone. There will be no written communications, and you are to destroy this memorandum. The Secretary of the Treasury assures me that there will be no reduction in the workforce, as this refunding activity will take a minimum of 5 years to complete. Further directions will be forwarded as the need arises. There you go, folks. It was never legal from the beginning. It was never ratified. It was not a constitutional amendment. And therefore, no income tax. It's going away. I expect we'll see the full, complete end of this perhaps by the end of this year. It would be great. In other news, CMS Administrator Dr. Oz has revealed that he believes up to as much as $300 billion in fraud every year is committed in the American healthcare system. Listen to what he says. This is staggering. I couldn't believe it.
Leadership, I'm proud to announce the largest fraud initiative, anti-fraud effort of its kind in CMS history. Now, why is this action necessary? Last night in the State of the Union address, the President spoke about the affordability issues that we have improved dramatically in this administration. But let's put some numbers on healthcare. The average family puts about $27,000 in the healthcare a year. They only pay $7,000 themselves, which is a lot, but there's an extra $20,000 invested for them. This is not a reasonable amount of money to spend. We have got to bend that curve downwards. It's unpredictable as well when you have to make these expenses, and the fraud that we're experiencing in America is making this already dangerous problem much worse. So we're going to fix these issues. The President last night spoke about the need for price transparency. That's going to help by making people more aware of what they're paying. It's also going to help us at CMS figure out what you should be paying and identifying fraud. To that note, the President announced last night that he's appointing our Vice President to lead the war on healthcare fraud, a wise choice. Your passion for this will make a huge difference. This is not about the money by itself. This is about people's lives and our culture, our shared values that have allowed these beautiful programs, Medicare and Medicaid, to survive brilliantly for 60 years. We believe, listen carefully, we are spending $300 billion a year in healthcare in this country for fraudulent, abusive, or wasteful purposes. $300 billion. Let's put that in perspective. If we could reduce fraud by 5%, which is that $300 billion, we would take the trust fund that's going to take care of all of us as we get older, and we would allow it not to expire in 5 to 6 years. We would double its life expectancy. That's massively important if you're going to trust a social safety net to be there for you. You deserve that social safety net. It's there. It's created. We're not going to let fraudsters steal it from you. The stellar CMS team, I want to call them out. Kim Brandt, who's videoing me over there, Dan Brillman, Capri Snap, Steph Carlton, have worked tirelessly to put this together. They've been rooting out criminals all year long. I know as well what it's like. I visited all these areas, personally witnessed what it's like to see something you know is wrong and wonder why no one tried to fix it. It's infuriating. The Vice President described very accurately exactly what you see on the ground.
So they're cleaning up the fraud. It's time to get rid of that. During the State of the Union, President Trump announced that the Vice President, J.D. Vance, would become basically like the czar. I don't know if you call it the czar, but become the czar of fraud. And his job is to make sure that it's being rooted out, not just in the healthcare system, but in every system of government. So it's a fairly broad responsibility, and they're looking at fraud. Of course, this comes, we started with Doge last year, and now Doge is moving into actually getting into fraud, and you're going to see the DOJ start prosecuting cases. The DOJ actually issued a special prosecutor specifically just for the fraud cases. So we actually have a attorney that is in that position underneath Pam Bondi just to do the fraud cases. So she has so much on her plate, they had to literally hire somebody new just to do the fraud cases. And you're going to see a lot more of this coming out as the year of justice is here, folks. Aren't you excited? Isn't that awesome? Now, a couple of other things going on in the world. Let me back up one here. There we go. Hungary. Hungary prepares for military as Ukrainian attack and sabotage. I have just ordered our military to ensure maximum security for our critical energy infrastructure. We will never give in to threats of globalist pressure. What happened? It was found out that Ukraine or Ukrainian forces had bombed supply pipelines to Hungary, cutting off their supply of oil and energy. Ukraine is a NATO member. This is a problem. Ukraine keeps saying, we want to be part of NATO. Yet now, in addition to Russia, they're fighting against NATO members. You're going to see some additional escalation here as this needs to be put out. And ultimately, it's going to lead to, in the end of the Ukrainian war. But this is important to keep your eye on this, because what's been happening in Ukraine is not what they say it is. And I'll leave it at that, but we'll give you more later. Putin says here, tensions, nuclear threats are rising. Russia warns of preemptive strikes on the UK and France. Tensions surrounding the Ukrainian conflict have just escalated. Vladimir Putin has accused Western actors of discussing scenarios involving nuclear components and alleged sabotage of critical infrastructure. Putin is saying, look, if NATO nations start helping Ukrainian in a nuclear fashion, we may take preemptive strikes against your nation. So they've now just been put on notice. Moving on to Canada, a lot of stuff going on in Canada, and I want to point some of this out for you. John Alberta Patriot posted this. Today, licensed gun owners across Canada received emails warning them to surrender legally owned firearms or face criminal prosecution. Let that sink in. Law-abiding Canadians, people who followed every rule, are now being told to hand over billions of dollars worth of personal firearms. Now, this is very interesting because what's coming, as you can see there, October 19th, Alberta is going to have a vote. And on this vote, it's Alberta Independence Day, but they're going to have a vote and they're going to decide, are they separating from Canada and possibly joining the U.S.? We don't know that for sure, but that's what seems to be the indication. Or are they sticking with Ottawa and the people will decide? The interesting thing is that just 11 days later, on October 30th, is going to be Turn In Your Guns Day. So this turn in your guns thing is probably going to put additional pressure, and I expect it's going to increase the support of Albertans that want to leave Canada and leave Ottawa and strike out on their own, not only because of the gun agenda, but also because they feel that they've been treated improperly by Ottawa and that they are funding a lot of the resources of the country because of their vast energy resources in Alberta. So big decisions coming. Are they going to separate? Are they going to stay in Canada? If they separate, what does that mean for them? Will they make an application to want to join the United States? There seems to be some indications that people are thinking in that direction. That would eliminate tariffs and probably fast-track pipeline access for those oil reserves in Alberta. That would be very interesting to see and watch. There are pipelines from Wyoming all the way to Texas. If they tied into that branch, that would be unbelievable because that would allow full flow all the way to refineries at the Gulf. So very fascinating as we watch the development in Canada. This is heating up. It's becoming an economic issue, but also now, as we see, turn in your guns so you can't oppose the issue. Very fascinating. As we watch here in America, we have a Second Amendment. which means we have a right to bear arms and they can't be infringed or taken from us. Every country that has traded in their guns has traded in their freedom. And we've seen it play out over and over again. And now here we have another example coming in Canada. So for you Canadians, we love you. We support you. I have many friends in Canada. And I want what's best for you. And it looks like if you're in Alberta, you may have a chance to actually vote on this issue coming up here in October. Now, in closing, I want to get onto some of the justice components here. And this is one example. Here's Epstein. Actually, I'm going to give you multiple examples. Everyone's been saying, when's the justice going to happen? When are we going to start seeing arrests? When are we going to start seeing stuff happen? And everybody's been talking about, why don't we have the Epstein documents? Well, during February, they dumped them. 3.5 million pages of Epstein documents are out and fully available. And since this has taken place, all kinds of resignations have begun. People are dropping like flies, okay? Let's look at the first one here. Nobel Prize-winning Columbia University neuroscientist resigns from some positions over the Epstein ties. Next. Larry Summers of Harvard steps down after he's tied to the Epstein stuff. Incredible, okay? Harvard professor. Former Norwegian Prime Minister Thorbjørn, what I can say is correct, Thorbjørn Jagland. I'm probably murdering. I'm so sorry for you, those of you that live over there. This has been hospitalized after attempting to commit suicide. He is under corruption investigation linked to the Jeffrey Epstein files. Okay, wow. Thank you, X22 Report, for posting that one. All right, let's go to the next one here. Boris Brande steps down as president of the World Economic Forum, the WEF, following revelations linking him to the Epstein files. The president of the WEF, remember we just had the WEF conference? We reported on that just recently. Now look what's happening. Look what's happening. All these people are running. Now, I shared this last week. I didn't share it this week, but you had an arrest in the UK with Prince Andrew over the Epstein issue. And you're going to see more stuff coming with others tied to that. Here's another example. CBS News contributor Peter Ottawa has just resigned as disturbing emails between he and Jeffrey Epstein were discovered in the newly released files. He's a Canadian and said to the Canadian Ottawa, if I say that right, said to Epstein, "The life you lead is so outrageous, and yet I can't tell a soul." Incredible. And this happened today. Cindy McCain, this is the widow of John McCain, Senator John McCain, if you remember him, who was taken out some time ago. With a heavy heart, I announce my intention today to step down as the WFP's executive director position. Leading this incredible organization on our dedicated teams has been the honor of a lifetime. This is a UN position with the WFP, okay, World Food Programs, and she's stepping down. Why? Again, connection to Epstein. So as we wrap up today, I want you to be encouraged, okay? There's a lot going on. It's actually happening. You're seeing justice come out. You're seeing disclosures come out. You're seeing people be removed from positions. I know it feels slower than you want it. For those awake, you're just dragging, you're going crazy. Enough already. Just get it done, right? For those asleep, it feels it's going so fast they can't even keep up. They're like almost on the edge of what they can handle. So when you have both sides of this issue, the awakened over here, the asleep over here, and neither one likes it, I think you're probably striking the right balance of getting through this together. And that we're striking that balance as we finish the job. I do think we're going to get finished by the 4th of July. That's certainly the intention. There could be some things finished before then. I indicated earlier in the week when somebody asked me about timing and about some items on the timing list, such as the Clarity Act, the Digital Asset Market Clarity Bill. When might this pass? And Trump said he wanted it by the end of February. Well, that's Saturday. Not likely. No, it's not going to be February. And March is going to be pretty maddening. As we indicated earlier, we're entering March Madness. Affectionately, Q called it March Madness. This is the March Madness that he referred to. And you're going to see this play out, and not about basketball. So it's about everything. Voter fraud, with problems in the election rolls in general. You're going to hear more about the fraud of economics in the healthcare system, in taxpayer funds, and multiple services across the government. You're going to hear about insider trading issues being exposed, and even among members of Congress, and how they've been taking advantage of information to become vast, wealthy people. And all of this is going to play out. It's going to be playing all at once. That's why it's going to be a bit maddening as we go forward. Meanwhile, you have metals pushing higher as fiat starts caving to that. So the economic system is at the end of its life. It's actually never gone as many years as it has now in terms of, usually it's been reset, but we haven't had a reset since 71, and it's never gone this long. It's just literally crumbling everywhere. So you're going to see this play out a little bit further. And by the time we get to the end of this, I do expect that most people will be, even those asleep, will be demanding something real. They're going to want an asset-backed currency, something that gives them substance and value what they have. And that is good. We want them to ask for that because we want the asleep to come along with the awake and move into a reset of financial proportions that will give us new currency, that will stop the issue of inflation. In fact, we could have deflation. Deflation is where the currency actually gets stronger rather than deflates and becomes less than, okay? The U.S. Federal Reserve note has lost 96.5% of its value since 1971. That's pretty abysmal. That's just this country. We've seen these issues play out in many other countries where inflation has gone crazy. Example of that could be Zimbabwe, because they've had crazy inflation over the years. But all these are issues many countries have had to deal with. We're trying to go back to a system of assets, getting away from the debt. Let's not be enslaved to these evil people who are all tied to Epstein and all this nonsense. We should be prosperous and abundant, and all those gifts are there for us. This world is blessed. We have much prosperity here. And as we shut down these systems, and they're just that, they're systems, the lack has been manufactured. It is not real. It's been manufactured for you to think there is less than, so that you would walk over your neighbor, a beautiful human being, in order to get that piece of paper with the president's face on it. And they would get us to literally choose a piece of paper over a living soul. The real value of this world is each other. We are children of God with unlimited capability, unlimited resources to learn, to grow, to expand, to create abundantly. That has value far beyond what you can imagine. And as we move forward in this new and beautiful world, we're entering the golden age. I hope all of you are getting excited. Trump has been saying the best is yet to come. Well, I'm here to tell you that the best is underway now. It's actually coming now. It's not to come, it's underway. And walk ourselves through a series of steps as we get through the end of this. You can expect some real issues over the next 60 to 90 days. There's going to be some turbulence. You don't switch financial systems without there being a few bumps, but the economy is doing well. I think we've got a good chance of landing on the other side of this relatively good. And I think the economy has been juiced up hot enough that even if there's a few little issues as we walk through those bumpy parts, we recover very quickly because of the hotness of the market currently. So that's all a blessing. Things are going in the right direction. We're going to see some beautiful things play out here in 26. And the latter half of the year, I think, should be phenomenal. We've not been given any dates of when these things will actually go down. There are prognosticated dates that go around social media chains all over the place, many which have been wrong every week for 5 years. So be careful with some of those, because the reality is the dates won't be given. However, there is one date that has been given by our president, and numerous things are tied to that date, including Trump accounts, which is investments in our youth and our children, and that is to begin the 4th of July. So that is the only date we've been given. So as we look towards that, we hope that all of these events that we've been watching unfold will be completed by then, and we can literally launch into a new beautiful era, and things can look very different by the end of this year and probably have the Christmas of a lifetime. So thanks everyone for your being here today and watching with us. We hope this information was helpful as we go through these slides and we talk about the things that are happening. I want you to see and realize that it is occurring. It's not make-believe. It's not just some pie-in-the-sky idea, that we're literally walking our way to the golden age. And every day we gain another step, another day. And it's certainly exciting. We love you here at Enoch Global Services. We're happy for all of you that have taken up the torch, that have decided to be humanitarians, that may have positioned yourself with various assets so that you might do good in the world. We hope that your projects will all be wonderfully blessed, and that you'll be able to affect each of your projects in a magnificent way. And everyone's life will be made better for it. Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. For those that are trying to get your projects and together, and you're trying to get some things organized, if you might need some help, you can go to enochgs.com. We will be putting together a series of, actually we have a series of services that are going to be coming out to help each of you accomplish your projects. They're really designed around helping projects get completed. We're building software system, data, information systems to build a platform so that all this can be done efficiently and effectively. And if you're wanting to speak with me, I have very limited availability. You can go to enochgs.com. There is a link towards the bottom of the page where under the consulting thing, where you can look at the calendar and see if there's some time for a limited time. And I'm continuing this at the moment, but for a limited time, we have offered to do those sessions not at the normal rate, but simply provide what you think you can afford to pay as a donation to the foundation and still get that high quality service that you expect. So we hope that's been helpful for many of you. We love you. Thank you for listening today. And we'll be back again next week with another global update. So thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. May your day be blessed. And we'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.